Lesson 11-2, Example 3. Our objective here is to learn to find the area of a trapezoid. Well, here we have a parallelogram, and we know that area of a parallelogram is equal to base times the height, where we have the height here. Here is our height. Well, if we take this parallelogram and we cut it in half, I'm going to cut this in half. If we do that, we know that if the entire area of this parallelogram is that, then half of it will be half of the base times the height. Now, how would we figure out the base here? We still know the height, but the base, we now have this base here. We can call this base 1, this distance here. And we have another distance between here and here. Let's call this base 2. And this distance all the way across, which would be the same as this distance down here, this entire distance here is the base of the parallelogram. So let's take a look down here. If I take this, I'm going to call this is base 2. It's equivalent to this base 2 over here. And base 1. Now if we know that the base 1 and the base 2 here are the entire base of that parallelogram, and it's equal to this entire base down here, then we know that base 1 plus base 2 here is equivalent to this entire length here. So base 1 and base 2 here is the base for the entire parallelogram. That means that base 1 here and base 2 here, those added together will be the entire base for this figure as well. So how can we apply that? Let's look at this. Just this one trapezoid by itself. So if we want to find the area here, we want to be able to find, we know that the trapezoid was half of the parallelogram. So just like with the triangle, we have half of the base times the height. Well, our height is still this distance here. We'd find that the same way as we would with a parallelogram. But our base now is not, we need to do a little bit of work to find the base, because now that base of the entire thing is now this base 1 plus this base down here. And we can write that like this: the sum of base 1 plus base 2. So our entire formula for finding the area of a trapezoid is area of a trapezoid equals 1/2 the sum of the base times the height. So let's take a look at an example here. Let's say we have this trapezoid, and this trapezoid has some dimensions, and we know that this distance here is 4 yards. We know this distance here is 12.5 yards, and this distance is 14.5 yards. And our area for our formula for the area of a trapezoid is 1/2 the height times the sum of base 1 and base 2. So we have area equals 1/2 the height. Well, our height is that distance from the base up to the highest point. Well, because this is a right angle here, I actually know that this is the height right here, so I can look at this number right here. But it would be the same as this over here. This would also be 4 yards. So I can use that height and say that's 4. Base 1 is this base right up here. That's 12.5 yards. Plus base 2, which is this base down here, which is 14. So, following order of operations here, I want to do what's in the parentheses first. So area equals 1/2 the height, and base 1 plus base 2 is 26 and 1/2. So now I'm going to look and I'm going to do this multiplication first between the height and the base. So we have area equaling 1/2, and 26.5 times 4 will work out, if I multiply that out, that works out to be 106. So I need to take 1/2 of that. As a trapezoid, it's half of the whole of a rectangle or a parallelogram. So 1/2 of 106 is 53. We're in yards, so 53 square yards is the area for this particular trapezoid.